June 26, 2012, the Landmarks Preservation Commission. Chair Tierney.
Here.
Vice Chair Bengochea. Commissioner Bland.
Here.
Commissioner Shaken. Commissioner Devonshire.
Here.
Commissioner Turner.
Here.
Commissioner Goldblum. Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Perlmutter.
Here.
Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Washington.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have items to close for designation this morning. Public meeting item number 1 is LP 2463, the proposed Riverside-West Historic District Extension 1 for Manhattan. The donor description is on your agenda and will be shown on that. Marion and Percival presenting.
The proposed Riverside-West Historic District Extension 1 consists of approximately 190 residential, institutional, and commercial buildings. Built primarily between the mid-1880s and late 1930s, these buildings represent the various phases of development that transformed the once rural area between West 79th and West 87th Streets, west of Broadway, into a dense urban enclave of speculatively built single-family dwellings and grand high-rise apartment buildings. Between the mid-1880s and the turn of the century, developers hired some of the city's most prominent residential architects, including McKim and White, Clarence True, George F. Pelham, C.P.H. Gilbert, Mortimer P. Thane, Joseph H. Taft, Kafka and Mott, and James and Leo to design single-family row houses and townhouses in a variety of styles and materials. Throughout the extension, picturesque ensembles in the Neo-Romanesque Revival, Renaissance Revival, Dutch and Flemish Renaissance Revivals, Queen Anne, and Beaux-Arts styles were executed in brownstone and brick with decorative elements of terracotta and copper. Within the rows, a rhythmic pattern was often established by the application of elements such as bow fronts, bay and oriel windows, dormers, gables, and balconies. Clarence True, one of the most prolific architects in the area, was influential in the appearance of the Riverside-West End Historic District Extension 1. A developer as well as an architect, he popularized the American basement plan, seen here on the right, with its lower stoop in the 1890s, and created the eclectic Elizabethan revival style, which combined English and French Renaissance elements, best seen in his 5 houses at 332 West 83rd, 103, 104, 105, and 107-109 Riverside Drive, aka 334 West 83rd Street, seen here on the left, in 1898 and 99. Those 5 buildings are all designated individual landmarks. In the 1890s, as apartment living gained respectability among the middle and upper classes, developers in the Riverside-West End Historic District Extension 1 hired some of these same architects, as well as others, to design small multiple dwellings, often referred to as French flats. Designed in the popular styles of the time, and compatible in scale and materials with the neighboring houses, these buildings appeared on Broadway, West End Avenue, and the side streets. With the advent of the smaller, more practical electric elevator, developers within the extension began constructing larger multiple dwellings, ranging in height from 6 to 9 stories and covering multiple lots. One of the outstanding examples of this type is the French Gothic Revival-style Red House at 350 West 85th Street, hard and short 1903-04, a designated New York City landmark, known for its boldly contrasting red brick and terracotta ornament, and bays of multi-paned windows. Buildings on corner lots with Broadway frontages, like those Saxony seen here on the right, by Steincone and Roth, is actually the first apartment house designed by Emery Roth in 1899-1900, and the Flores by George F. Pelham on the opposite corner, included space for commercial tenants. In the 20th century, multiple factors contributed to the changing character of the Riverside-West End Historic District 1. After 1900, developers focused on flats and apartment buildings as escalating construction costs made single-family row house development infeasible, and the opening of the IRT subway in 1904 made the Upper West Side more accessible to the city's expanding population. Single-family dwellings and small flats less than 30 years old were demolished and replaced with apartment buildings of 12 to 15 stories on West End Avenue, Riverside Drive, and also on West 86th Street, and an astonishingly rapid transformation rare in the development of the city. Rules established by the Tenement House Act of 1901 determined the form, massing, and maximum height of new residential buildings until 1929. These regulations contributed to the remarkably consistent height of apartment buildings, particularly along West End Avenue, designed during the 1910s and 20s by Schwartz and Gross, Neville and Bagg, Gaetan Ayala, Rosario Candela, and George F. Pell. Under the multiple dwelling law of 1929, all new construction came under the regulations established by the 1916 zoning legislation. In the 1930s, 4 high-rise apartments of 18 to 20 stories, designed by Marvin and Holder, Vulcan Paris, George F. Pelham Jr., were all constructed on Riverside Drive and West End Avenue. The following decade, only one small apartment building was constructed in the extension, after which new construction came to a halt until the 1970s. As the Riverside-West End Historic District Extension 1 developed, schools, houses of worship, clubs, and commercial structures were erected to serve the needs of the growing population. Between the 1890s and the 1900s, churches and schools, including George Peister's Romanesque Revival-style First Baptist Church, 1891-94, R.H. Robertson's Romanesque Renaissance Revival-style St. Paul Methodist Episcopal Church, now the Church of St. Paul and St. Andrew Methodist, 1895-97, which is a designated landmark. Charles C. Hates Gothic Revival-style St. Ignatius Protestant Episcopal Church and Parish House, 1901-1902. C.J. Schneider's Dutch Renaissance Revival-style Grammar School No. 9, now the Mickey Mantle School, Public School 11N, built in 1894-96, which is a designated landmark, and William A. Boring's Regis-style St. Agatha School for Girls, now St. Agnes Boys High School, 1907 to 08, were constructed on prominent corners along Broadway and West End Avenue. With demographic changes in the 20th century, Congregation Al HaShalom, Congregation Tehulah Jacob, the Karl Bach Shul, and Congregation Benai Israel Chaim adapted existing buildings for their use. On Broadway, the distinctive Broadway fashion building Sugarman and Berger, 1931, is the one purpose-built commercial structure included in the extension. Designed in the Art Deco style, this building, with its nearly continuous fenestration, separated by glazed terracotta piers and decorative metal spandrels, is a significant early example of an almost totally transparent glass curtain wall. The small colonial Bible-style building, seen just to the left of it at 2307 Broadway, was originally designed for the West Side Republican Club by Neville and Bagg in 1897. In its broad array of row houses, townhouses, flats, high-rise apartment buildings, schools, churches, and commercial buildings, the Riverside-West End Historic District Extension 1 represents in microcosm the development of the Upper West Side of New York since the 1880s. Designed by some of the city's most prominent architects and executed in the dominant styles of their eras, these buildings form a distinct section of the city that complements the previously designated Riverside West End and Riverside Drive West 80th, 81st Street historic districts.
Okay, thank you. As everyone knows, I believe here in the room, this is the last stage, the last step, if you will, of a process that has been ongoing for years. I will not define it how many or go beyond that, but for many people in this room, I think it resonates in that sense for all the work, all the commitment that's obvious to what we've seen on the presentation. It's a sweeping sense of architecture, a discrete section of the city, a sense of place that I can't think of anything that better defines that term or exemplifies that term in a committed community. The West End Preservation Society is to be applauded for their efforts over the period of time that brings us here today. Yale Brewer, a courageous councilwoman and leader in the community, has been with us all the way in this effort. what culminates today. And you see the sweeping summary, if you will, and it's a survey really of the best that one can find in the architecture of this period. Not all the same, very eclectic in many ways, but it comes together in a very special neighborhood in a very distinct section of the city. As part of our efforts throughout this, working with the community, we have talked with dozens, hundreds perhaps, individual owners, groups of owners. Not everyone agrees, as is often the case, but what we've tried to have is a constructive dialogue, not only for the purpose of being able to take an action today, but to take actions going forward with respect to the continued upkeep and maintenance and care that this section of the city, that this soon-to-be historic district warrants, and that should be done ideally, and I hope we can convey that spirit in a spirit of in a partnership where we work together. We talk about what needs to be done. We find alternatives. We're not seeking to impose our way or the proverbial highway. We want to work together. We want to make this district continue to be as vibrant as it is and as it has been. This is not a freezing operation. It's an operation of continuing to preserve what's so important in this community and in historic districts throughout the city. So this one makes me as proud as any that have been, that I've had the privilege to oversee and be a part of in the last almost decade. And I'm very happy to be in this state today and to be able to cast a vote in a moment for this West End Historic District Extension 1. It sounds a little dry, but that's not dry. What we've just seen is anything but dry. Fred?
Well, the chairman doesn't leave much for the rest of us to say. Kind of said it all, but I think the research that was done here, and we see just the tip of an iceberg of that research in the extraordinary images on the screen. The research, along with the community outreach that has been ongoing for a long time now, certainly justifies this inclusion as a landmark district. And I want to emphasize, as Bob did, that landmark districts in no way freeze communities from moving forward. They just do it in a very careful way with the knowledge that the historic artifact in terms of the district and in terms of the individual elements of individual buildings are to be respected even as change occurs. So I think this is a wonderful day for the Upper West Side.
Michael?
I have to second all that, including the kudos to the research department for their work. And I think, for my own part, one of the terms that Marianne used, which is eclectic, is something that always comes to mind in this area. It's a magnificent collection of eclectic architectural history, and I most certainly approve.
John?
Yes, I agree with all those comments, and again, I want to take the time to congratulate Marianne and Mary Beth and the research department as a whole, because all the work that comes out here really gives us so much information in order to save some of these precious buildings. And the sampling in this district is especially wonderful, and I'm so proud to be able to vote for it.
Yeah, I agree. Amazing district. Yeah, personal confession. When I left Boston in 1974, this was my first neighborhood, 83rd Street, frequently, West 85th Street. And for the folks who don't know what 85th Street was like back then, it's just a marvel of the condition that it's in now. It's just great to be part of the entire district. So very proud to be part of this.
Yeah, no, and outside of this room, there's, as you know, a big debate raging about the extension of historic districts. And so when you extend a district, you have to be careful about what's included in it. And I think that in this case, every single building in the district is shockingly magnificent, sometimes jaw-dropping. And again, one of those things you're saying, how come this wasn't this before? So in this case, I don't have hesitation after
just including on the West End Historic District. I'm not necessarily you're generally familiar with it.
Yes.
And we've just done sort of the greatest hits of that district here and had a sweeping sense of its importance, and we're about to cast a vote. And if you'd like to say anything, you're please do.
Well, I mean, I do remember going through this before, and I think it's an impressive area that really needs to be landmarked.
Okay, Chris, you would
I move that the Landmarks Preservation Commission designate Riverside-West End Historic District Extension 1, Borough of Manhattan, as a New York City Historic District because it contains buildings and other improvements which have a special character and special historical and aesthetic interest and value, and which represent one or more eras of the history of New York City, and which cause this area, by reason of these factors, to constitute a distinct section of the city. Further, this historic district is part of the development, heritage, and culture of the city, state, and nation, as set forth in the designation report for LP 2463 dated June 26, 2012. I further move that the district be designated with the boundaries as set forth in the Commission's designation report and shown on the attached map.
second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's unanimously designated. Thank you all very much.